Welcome back to Final Fantasy XIV. Yeah, we are here in Mortzuk, where we want to continue our Eden raid. Louis over there has the Savage for the first part we did a while ago, and yeah, Alford should have a continuation. Ah, there you are. I'm part of a team helping with the, highly classified and very, very secret thing. The fact of the matter is, I've come to inform you of a rather interesting development. It's about the girl who was brought back from the empty. She's finally woken up, you see. Alford? And Serenia too. We heard the news from Thancred, is it true? Why yes, it most certainly is. Apparently her name is Gaia. She claims to be a free citizen of Yulmore, although she remembers nothing of events leading up to her attack on Eden. She's lost her memory? Parts of it, at the very least. We also cannot be sure whether she's telling the truth or if it's merely a ruse. She's yet to display any hostility, which is encouraging, I suppose. And Thancred's with her now, is he? Yes, he's taken her to Yulmore, mainly to verify what she's told us so far. Quiz for locals, that sort of thing. After that, the plan is to come back here, though they're taking rather longer than I had anticipated. I do hope nothing is amiss. And we're going looking for them, okay. Good grief, are you always this slow? At this rate, it'd be dark again before we know it. The night sky returning is all well and good, but it does make each day seem awfully short. And are you still dragging your heels back there? At least act as if you've got a purpose, would you? Now, look here, I'm not one of your servants. Why don't you carry your own luggage for a change? Thancred, you're back! You lot are a sight for sore eyes. Yes, even you, Horianje. Guy and I just finished shipping her personal effects from Yulmore. I'm glad we could finally meet. Properly, I mean. So, did you learn anything useful? Other than where she lives, not an awful lot. My supposed neighbors barely knew the first thing about her. Hell, she barely knows the first thing about herself. Her recollection of her life in Yulmore is patchy at best. But she seems convinced that she'll regain her memory if she accompanies us. So, she invited herself to join our merry band, and for her first act she ordered me to carry her luggage. If you insist on standing around talking, might I suggest finding a place to sit down first? My feet are killing me. Then perhaps you should have chosen more sensible footwear. Still, it's not such a bad idea, shall we? I've got so many things I want to ask, but I probably shouldn't bombard her with questions. Amnesia. 'Tis troubling, though not entirely unexpected. Well, I've given you my early impression of Gaia, but I would be interested in hearing your opinion. Go and talk to her and see what you can make of her situation. Let me guess, I sit here. So, you don't remember anything at all? Not attacking us? Not falling unconscious? Such selective amnesia would rightly raise suspicion with those of a cautious mind. Yet if she does speak the truth, it would lend credence to my current hypothesis. Though, admittedly, some further... Not now, Yuanji, she's only just woken up. We don't want to bore her back to sleep. In any case, I prefer to follow my instincts and telling me that Gaia means us no harm. After much deliberation, I thought it only right to let her know about our work in the empty as a sign of goodwill. After all, trust works both ways. Though I would ask you, Serenia, not to let your guard down just yet. So you're the one I'm supposed to have fought. Come to think of it, I recognize you from somewhere. Maybe I've just run off his faces? Or perhaps you just didn't make much of an impression? But to be honest, I do feel that since meeting you, those hazy memories are becoming slightly clearer. It's like remembering fragments of a dream, only to realize those things actually happened. It's as if my whole life has been leading to this. Thou speakest as though thou didst expect this turn of events. I guess you could say that. It's what a fairy tells me. I can see it, but it's as though there's someone else inside me, and I can hear its voice in my head. It whispers to me and lets me use its power. Magic, I suppose you could call it. Not that I know much about that sort of thing. And this power alloweth thee to tear apart the fabric betwixt realities, that thou mayest call forth the aether-starved denizens of what remained of the 13th. What? Was that supposed to mean something, or just spouting random words at me? Honestly, I don't know how you all put up with this. Bone just met him and his insufferable prattle is already giving me a headache. Gods, I can't believe I'm having this conversation. To think that I was flying about in a suit of armor waving a sword? Doesn't sound like me at all. Someone else inside you. Like Minfilia was inside me. Aye, the similarities cannot be ignored. Though it's too early to say with certainty, Gaia may well be the Oracle of Darkness. The Oracle of Darkness. What does this mean? It means that you may have been right when you said she has something in common with Emmett Selk. Those who have been used as a living host by an Ascian have no recollection of events that occurred during their possession. This I know from personal experience. But Gaia seems to have some memories still, even if they're a little hazy. Moreover, she has remained in control of herself even when she heard the voice within, much like you and Minfilia. And while Reen was very much her own person, Minfilia's presence did exert a change upon her outward appearance, granting her hair and eyes a hue akin to that of our dear departed friend. It is therefore not unthinkable that Gaia's raven locks may be a manifestation of a darkness which hath come to reside within her. But I was born like this, and my parents, they both had black hair too. Or at least I think they did. It's been so long since I saw them. Can't remember too well. But enough about me. You're Minfilia, aren't you? The Oracle of Light they were hosting in Yulmore. That's right, though imprisoning is a better word. They kept me locked away and didn't know much about Yulmore and its people, or the rest of the world for that matter. I see. So exactly did the Oracle of Light come to run around with a Warrior of Darkness? Well, it all started when... blah blah blah. Recollection time. Yes, I just still remember the day everyone went raving mad and Lord Dwarfrey fled. Everything after that is still a blur, though. From what Gaia told me, she wasn't part of a mob that attacked us, but how was she able to resist Dwarfrey control? Maybe it was the intervention of this fairy of whom she speaketh. As curious as it may be, we still don't know why she appeared out of nowhere as soon as Eden took flight. It's just a guess, but I'd say the fairy reacted to it in some way, and for whatever reason, made me go after it. Yes, that seems like the only explanation. I don't know about you, Lord, but I have enough nettering. I'm going back to Eden. What? But why? The fairy wanted something from Eden, and knowing what that is will bring me a step closer to discovering exactly what has been living in my head all these years. Besides, my memories aren't going to restore themselves, and certainly not through idle chit-chat. So I'm going, and that's that. Gaia, wait! Insufferable. Utterly insufferable. And yet, we can't leave her to her own devices. She kind of gone far, especially not in those heels. Get away from me! Gaia! Seems I have no choice. What am I? I'm not entirely sure what I just witnessed, but I'm glad she's unharmed. Powers befitting the Oracle of Darkness. When you fought Gaia, she opened void gates, yes? Back in the source, portal such as those were all too common. But tearing open the veil between the 1st and the 13th is a different matter entirely. We should be thankful that she's not of a mind to turn that power against us. For now. A most fascinating application of ethereal manipulation. The destructive blast that manifests a significant span of time after the initial casting. With sufficient mastery of such a technique, a second spell could be made to smite the target at precisely the same time. While it would demand exceptional ethereal control, its tactical potential cannot be denied. She did that constantly in the fight against her. That was a great gimmick, delayed spells. What are you all gawping at? I don't mean to stare, but it's not every day I see magic like that. So, this is the power of a fairy you spoke of? Ever since I was a child, it had whispered to me, telling me what to do. That's how I came to use its power. But there are things I can't even explain. Holes ripped in thin air, terrifying creatures crawling out, ghastly-looking blades and armor appearing out of nowhere. But worst of it all is the dark energies that come from inside. This power? It feels as though it's flowing through me and never truly mine. And even when it answers my call, it always takes a few moments for the spells to work. So in summary, you don't have control over the magic. Well, it's not that I've ever tried to control it. I haven't made a habit of fighting wild beasts. Unfortunately, it's part and parcel of traveling through Amareng. And while I understand you want answers, you're not going to find them unprepared as you are. But if your heart is set on this, then we'll help you. Ween, think about what you're saying. You're seriously considering taking Gaia to see Eden? There's no telling what might happen if she loses control again, so the safest option is for her to stay away until our work is done. Somewhere we can keep an eye on her. You must realize it's for her own good. I must concur with Thancred's assessment. At present we know precious little of Gaia's origin, and less still of her powers. If she is indeed the Oracle of Darkness, her presence may complicate a task already fraught with peril, placing our mission and her own well-being in jeopardy. In full knowledge of the rest, does Thor still wish to pursue this course? I do. It wasn't so long ago that I was living in isolation, being held against my will. Maybe the people keep an eye on me through that was for my own good too. But if we shut Gaia away for our own convenience, we are no better than Warfrey and Ranjit. I've learned that when someone is in need, you must reach out a helping hand, not push them away. Now it's my turn to do for Gaia what you've all done for me. Even knowing the danger that lies ahead, I won't choose the easy way out. This is the path I have chosen. Is that not good enough for you? Well, I can't say any fairer than that. How about you, Rianji? The light of my spirit does burn bright. Mine apologies, my dear, but we felt it necessary to test thy resolve. Let it suffice it to say that thou hast left no room for doubt. For what it's worth, Rin, I never doubted you. But make no mistake, the danger that Urianji and I spoke is all too real. If you're prepared to go through with this, we'll be right there beside you. That means a lot for me. Thank you. I couldn't care less who I travel with, but if you're going to go, then let's get going already. There's supposed to be some sort of craft waiting at the southern watchtower, yes? Come along then and don't fall behind. Yeah. Why couldn't you leave his craft in Mortsuk instead of all the way out here? Actually, don't bother explaining. Whatever the reason is, I'm sure it's something frightfully uninteresting. Let's be about it, shall we? Of course I'm worried about what might happen when Gaia gets close to Eden. We keep a close eye on her, make sure she's alright. Though our circumstances have changed, our mission most assuredly has not. Restoring life to the empty remaineth our primary objective. It might be a bit of a tight squeeze with the 5 of us, but we manage. Perhaps the Ranger can sit on top of our luggage. I'd hoped that during our absence, rebalancing of ambient air might work further change. Alas, it was not to be. As usual, we should keep our sojourn here as brief as possible. Let's tend to business quickly. Everything seems fine here as far as I can tell. As for Gaia, she hasn't started attacking anything yet, and so I take that as a good sign. So there it is. Eden, where I find the answers I seek. The bringer of a flood, the first sin eater. Would it lead me to my past or my future? What awaited on the path ahead, I couldn't say, but I had no choice but to take the first step. I know what it's like. It was the same for me. But I was lucky because Thancred freed me from Yulmore and had a chance to see the world. More importantly though, I met all kinds of people and they taught me not to live in another's shadow, but to be myself. Maybe one day you have that chance too. Said your piece, have you? One day? What's that supposed to mean? I don't know how the great Oracle of Light sees such things, but for someone like me who's only known life in Yulmore, there's no tomorrow, there's no future, only the here and now. And while we waste time on these meaningless conversations, I feel each moment of my life slipping away. Time, it won't wait. Not for me, not for anyone. I don't know how much longer I can hold on to who I am. I'm sorry, Gaia. Gaia? That's probably not even my real name. It isn't? When Thancred asked me my name, I couldn't remember. That's when the fairy whispered to me. Gaia. But if you grew up in Yulmore, surely someone there must know who you are. Everyone I once knew had either disappeared or had turned into sin eaters. And those whose faces and names I still remember, that is. In the end, we found not a single person who so much as recognized me. As far as I can tell, I've never been the most sociable person, but still. Well, even if it's not your real name, I think Gaia sounds lovely. If you're happy with it, then that's what I call you. And if you're willing, instead of the Oracle of Light, please call me Reen. It's not the name I was born with, that's long forgotten now, but the one the people who I consider family gave to me. Is that so? Well, much as I'd love to keep up this chatting, there's something that's bothering me. I thought the fairy would react to Eden in some way, but so far, nothing whatsoever. From what I gather, it wasn't until Eden started moving that I appeared out of the blue. Perhaps if we were to actually try to flying it somewhere, the fairy might break its silence. If you got elements to restore whatever it is, why don't you hurry up and get it over with? At once, your ladyship. Aye, maybe best to resign ourselves to a mannerism. A good thing we're not wholly unfamiliar with attending nobility, given certain company in the science. Of whomsoever does for speak, I wonder. Alright everyone, I think we've talked for long enough. If you're ready, let's make our way to Eden. My memories. I think they're slowly coming back. My mother and father would constantly bother on about how a flood of light could return to end the world when we least expect it, and that we should live each day as though it were our last. They would often say, "I wish this moment would last forever." That was until they were selected for ascension by Lord Warfrey and were never to be seen again. Since I had no other relatives or even any close friends to speak of, I was left alone in the world. A past like that hardly seems worth remembering, does it? Ween's little chat with Gaia reminded me that, for all our obvious differences, there are things we have in common. I too grew up not knowing who my parents were. The day Louis Soir gave me the surname Waters was one I never forget. Years later, it was under rather more desperate circumstances that I gave a certain young girl the name Minfilia. Little did I know that it would end up crossing time and space, taking on a meaning I could never have foreseen. It came to be passed on to one girl after another, binding them to a fate not their own. In a sense, it may be said that I chose not only one, but two names for Ween. But whatever name she's called, she is truly her own person now. As essential to our lives as names are, I believe it is not the name itself, but the bonds it symbolizes that matter most. I've done some reading about the land swallowed up by the flood, but it's no easy task finding locations with a dominant element. I'm glad we have Yurianji to point us in the right direction. Following the initial changes wrought by the release of water on Earth, the empty has displayed no further signs of alteration. Stability, as some may call this, and be satisfied. But in truth, it is passivity. A passivity stemming from light's ever-pervasive presence. If we are to break the status quo, we must need employ a catalyst, a third element that shall rouse and stabilize those unleashed energies and activity. Therefore, I propose lightning. So the primal would be Ramu, yes? And from what I've heard, he's a guardian of a forest and not particularly keen on conflict. But you've actually fought him, haven't you? He's half man, half beard, and another half beard for good measure. Ah yes, Thancred mentioned he's more closely resembling a person than a beast, unlike most other primals, and apparently tends not to move about much. I'm glad to see our lessons have paid off. But it's like you say, if we want to call forth an accurate representation of a primal, I should picture it in my mind as clearly as possible. At the very least, it's worth a try, but the rest is up to Serenia. In order for this to work, we need to actually fly somewhere, yes? So rather than sitting in one spot while you exchange anecdotes, why don't you get this blasted thing moving first? One must admit the suggestion is not without merit. Might I suggest the Gandalf Thunder Plains as our next location? These plains at its width were perpetually blanketed in storm clouds, the only source of illumination the ceaseless barrage of lightning. The ambient aether that lingered there shall provide ideal conditions for the summoning. Then that's where we're headed. Come on, Eden, we've got a job to do. This should be as good a spot as any. Alright, Serenia, whenever you're ready. Memories of Ramu flash through your mind. Eden's verse, Fulmination.
There's no turning back. Get ready!
Inheritor of Levin, Ramu.
So, this is Ramu.
Thou wouldst fortress world anew, I shall test my worth. Spears of lightning to me.
Ops. Ow.
Rolling thunder foretells thy doom. Swift as thou art, I'm swifter still. O noble beast of Levin, may none stand in your path.
Ah. Oh. Lost both tanks. Thanks. Ow. Yes, I should have collected something, or run away, or... So many. Not 3%. I have taken by measure, bringer of light. I thought I was prepared to expect anything, but I didn't expect Rami to turn out quite like that. Appearance aside, he was quite aggressive as well, but Sylph's belief in him was as a kindly garden clearly makes a difference to his temperament. Anyway, I'm just glad it's over. Let's get back to the camp and see if anything changed. The crystal's a different color, but apart from that, it all looks the same. It may look the same, aye, but it feels different. The air has grown slightly more humid, as it does before rain. I have to say I'm not exactly prepared for wet weather. If Eden can control elements and so on, can't you tell it to send those clouds somewhere else? Speaking of which, I'm not very impressed with its so-called powers. If changing yellow crystals to purple is the extent of its abilities, it's no surprise the fairy didn't bother showing up. I hope that whatever's next is more worthwhile. Rather than influencing the ground beneath our feet, Eden has brought change to the firmament above. And yet it is clear that a more dynamic element is required for the natural cycle of precipitation and evaporation to be completed. So we need movement. Would wind do the trick? Most certainly. It seems we have a plan. Let's not dwell too much on the effects of each individual element, and let's focus on seeing them all restored. The power of an oracle. Not to be sniffed at, it seems. All my life you were a constant companion, your voice ever seeping into my mind. Why then, of all times, did you abandon me? Deaf even to the crashing of thunder? Or were you simply biding your time? So, despite what she claims, she is rather impressed with what happens. Anyway, yeah, let's end the episode here and look how we help the world next time. Until then, I'm Mace and don't get lost.